Hi, my name is Kara Connolly, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
I think that Life in Rearview should be like a bigger song than it is right now. Like it's
Thank
such a
you.
great track.
Wow, thank you so much. I know I'm like talking without the microphone. I always do that. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that. I want it to be a bigger track. I hope that it is someday.
Yeah. Like it's everything, like this sonically it's amazing, like lyrically it's amazing, like the beat of like everything of the track is amazing. Like it was literally on replay for me.
You're like, I'll just keep playing this one over and over and over again. You're like, oh, I'm here. Thank you. No, that means a lot. To me, that song is a great driving song, too. Like, I wanted a lot of this record, but especially that song to feel like something that you could just, like, put in, you're on your radio, just like while you're driving through the hills, like you just did, or wherever, on the freeway. Like, I wanted it to feel like when that chorus hits, that you're just cruising.
Right.
But I wanted the lyrics to be like a little introspective, so you're getting a nice mix of like that kind of just like cruising in your car, free feeling, but also with this like the lyric that's kind of contradicting that,
Right.
But yeah, I love the song, and I, the music video randomly did really well in Mexico, which was completely unexpected.
You never know where your music goes.
Yeah, I had no idea. And so it's interesting with that song, like people actually heard it more from the music video than they did like just the streaming of it, which I thought was really kind of crazy. Yeah, like the comparison, I'm like certain people would message me like, I've watched the music video 5 times. I'm like, okay, that's great. Now
Can you just go to Spotify?
on Spotify? Yeah, like the music video got like over 175,000 views. Yeah, and I'm like, go listen on Spotify. But like I think that there was something about the visuals with the song that somehow Mexico just really loved.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have never expected that, because I'm like, do they know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but maybe that's not even what's an issue. Maybe you're just like the feel of it plus the visuals. Maybe you get the story because of the music video without even just like listening to the track, which is what's nice, I guess, about music videos and visuals meets, music, is that you can really tell, I think, a full story without the need for like words or language.
Right. Yeah, it's a different perspective. Like it's crazy. But when you were creating this track, like how did you go about creating it? Because it is different from your previous stuff.
Yeah. This song, I always heard it differently than how I was playing it on the guitar, because I wrote it acoustically on acoustic guitar, which there is acoustic guitar on it. So you can hear that as the core, but I always knew that the chorus had to soar. So when I was playing it live on my own without like backing vocals and like the kick drum, I think the song really took form and took off once we got that like kick drum in and also the backing vocals that were soaring, and that's how I always envisioned it in my head. So it was funny, like my boyfriend, once he heard the recorded version, he was like, I like understand this song now, which not every song is like that. The process is different for everything, but certain songs you're like, yeah, man, like when I just play that on acoustic guitar alone, like everybody gets it and it hits, and like it's just like the lyric is fun with the melody or whatever. But with that one, I knew, I was like, no, this chorus, it's not like a sad introspective song that you sing on the guitar. Like it has like a hit to it that you don't expect necessarily. And so once those backing vocals came in and everything, like it was exactly how I heard it in my head, which was really cool. That was one song. That was the song that I will say that I feel like on the record I got it to sound exactly how I heard it in my head, which doesn't always happen. Yeah, there's a few moments that I do hear things that I wish I added, like, because now I like let it go. Like I was like, I don't need to add that part, it's done, because you can, a song's never really like done, and you can keep adding to it. And there's this part in the second verse, a guitar part, that I always hear in my head when I'm listening to it that I didn't put on it. But for the most part, like the overall feel, like the tempo and the feel that you get when the chorus hits, and also that electric guitar solo and the bridge, like those were all things I had in my head that like once it was pieced together for the recording, I was like, this is how I always heard it, and was trying to articulate you know.
Well, you could still maybe add that bit to it for the debut album.
Right, or even for the live shows. Yeah, like it's a fun little thing that you get to hear live that you're like, whoa, I didn't think that. It's cool when artists sometimes change a song slightly live, whether it's like sometimes if I reference a day of the week in the songs, like I'll change it to whatever day of the week I'm like performing, so maybe
That's smart.
it could be something like that, but with like just like a little guitar part. Yeah, I mean, I think for sure. I just think that's kind of how that song came to be, was that I had these kind of ideas in my head of how it would kick, and my producer Bill Leffler was like on the same page with it. Right. So he was like, yeah, this is where this comes, like he could hear it too. Right. In just the acoustic playing, with the way that like, you can kind of indicate where you are hearing something production wise just from the way that you're playing the acoustic guitar. Like, if I decided to start taking it and playing like very softly during the chorus, you might realize like, oh, this is where it comes down, but like it would really pick up and I would start, jamming it during the chorus.
A lot of like mathematical terms like to create in a song, and I don't think people understand it. Yeah.
There's a lot of dynamics, and I really love to play with dynamics in my music. I really love where things like cut out. Like you'll notice in a lot of my songs that certain phrases the music just cuts out, or the bridge will break down, or the bridge goes crazy. Like I really love to play with just like the pacing of things, with like when things hit and when things pull away. Because I think it draws you in more when you're like, oh, this part got quiet. Like, what is she saying here? And then it's like, oh, now it's big. And I think that's what a lot of music is just like playing with those dynamics.
Right. And speaking of dynamics, your latest single, Other People, I feel like that one's more mellowed out.
Yeah, for sure.
It's more of the sound of the piano.
Yeah.
And a little bit, I want to say a little bit of like strings, violin, maybe.
Yeah, the strings
so
bit, yeah.
creating that song, because it's completely different from the previous song. So, what was the mindset for this one?
So it's so interesting with this whole record. I wrote a lot of songs, and with the production, I kind of just let it be what it wanted to be. Like, so that's why each song really is a little bit different. I'm hoping the through line is like my storytelling and my vocal and the way that I word things. But with Other People, I wrote it on the guitar as well, and the little do 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 do, the piano part, that was plucking, finger picking on the guitar, and so it was actually a pretty kind of a sad song, like a kind of a melancholic, bittersweet, sad song on the guitar, which it still is when you really listen, but it has a little bit more of like that, like, upbeat kind of quirky feel until you really listen to the lyrics and you're like, oh, I think that this is kind of sad. It's that kind of dichotomy, But the piano, my producer was like, what if we tried this on the keys, that part you wrote on the keys? And I was like, sure, as long as it has all the little, because like when I was playing it, I was like, no, it has the do, and then it has like, because there's all these little motifs that like repeat musically in that song on the keys. And I was like, if we're taking it from the guitar to the keys, like it has to still have the like doo-doos, and it has to have the there's another part in the background that's like, I don't even know, but there's a couple parts that I was like, it has to have. And so he thought it was a good idea to take it to the keys, and then we had this whole thing kind of laid out with the keys and the percussion and everything else. And I was like, there needs to be strings on this song. And so I like really fought for the strings to come in, because to me, I was like, in the second verse, like these strings come in, and on the bridge, like the strings are there. And because I think it brings it like a bit of the gravitas that the emotional message needs. So it is a chill song, and it's a pretty like, I think it's kind of a youthful song because it has those keys, and it feels a little like youthful, which is what I wanted, because a lot of that relationship that song talks about took place in high school and college.
So you really like took it back, like with everything, sonically and lyrically.
I wanted it to have that feel. I wanted the song to feel like innocent but experienced, bitter but sweet. Like I wanted it to have that dichotomy, and so I thought that the keys really worked with that, but only if we threw in the strings. Because I was like, that's when it like, when the bridge hits and it kind of cuts out, speaking of dynamics, like when it kind of cuts out and the strings come in, and then it has that first half of the chorus with like very, very minimal underneath it, it's kind of like a sad version of that chorus, and then it kicks in with like background vocals. I wanted to make sure that you still got the message of it, which is like, it is bittersweet. It's not like a purely happy pop song, but it's also not devastating.
Right.
You know, it's like it's a youthful relationship that it's, you know, it's about like when you get out of a relationship and how strange it is to think that that person is still out there going through the daily motions of their life just without you. And I didn't want that to be like a devastating thing, because that's how life is. Like life, people move on, and you know, people do end up with different people, and like that's a good thing. Like you don't want them to be alone forever, you know. But it's still weird. It's strange, and it's kind of this feeling that I think people have experience but maybe don't talk about, and how it's like it's hard, it's kind of strange to think that person's still out there. And so I wanted to capture that, like that bittersweet nature of it, which is that like I'm okay, I hope the person's doing fine, but like there is still, you know, it does tug at your heartstrings a little bit.
What's it like for you when you kind of get vulnerable like that on a track?
It's a good question. This song was really vulnerable for me in a lot of ways, even though it does have a kind of an upbeat tempo and feel, especially with the fact that the lyrics are very like, you know, and the verses are very da, 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 you know. The concept was vulnerable for me, and so recording the song was pretty emotional for me, because I hadn't really thought about, I obviously wrote the song and I had experienced that feeling, but when I record a song, I try to put myself back in that place to sing it. So you're kind of...
Sounds like torture at the same time.
Well, it's like acting too, right? Like you're kind of like a masochist or something. But really, like it's like you know, singing it, I was like, I wanted to put myself back in that place. And it almost helps me not be so concerned about all the other elements, like vocally, and if you're not feeling great, that like as long as you're depending on the fact that you're like, I want to tell this story, I feel like you can't really go wrong, because if you're emotionally there and if you're singing the song from that place, it doesn't, the rest kind of is just the cherry on top. So I try to put myself back in that place, and I think that this song definitely made me think of a lot of memories that I had been through. And I also wrote like the second verse and the second pre-chorus of the song the day that I recorded it. So I was already like thinking of memory. Yeah, things kind of kept like just, and that was the only song I did that. The other ones were all written in advance. So I was a little nervous going into this one, because I was like, we've got all these other songs that are already completely written. And my producer was like, yeah, but like this song's great, you need to finish it. So I'm like, okay. So I was writing it as I was recording it, and so I was really in like a very vulnerable state. And I still like this song when I perform it live, especially when it's a little more stripped down. It definitely puts me in an emotional space, because it is kind of sad to think that like we're so close with somebody, and we spend so much of our daily lives going to the grocery store, like whatever, all these little things that when the person is gone, you realize like, you're like, am I going to run into them at that grocery store? Like, what are they doing? Like, are they still having that issue with their mom? Are they, you just like, you realize that you don't even know that person anymore. So you go from basically being so close, like almost family members, to being strangers. And that's really what the song is about. So like when I do sing it, I do think of the fact that I'm like, man, you know, it's a weird thing to realize that you're like a stranger to somebody that was so close to you. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. But
I'm with you on that. I get
that
completely.
So that's what the song's about. And I don't know, you know, I hope people pick that up on first listen, but maybe it's one of those where you realize it.
You just have to watch the music video.
Well, I think so. There's actually a music video coming out for it. So I hope that the music video like gets you a little bit more into like the world and the story, which is what I hope with all my music videos that in the future that I intend to make. Like, I really want the visuals of my work, whether it be a music video or the, you know, promo photos on, you know, Instagram or whatever, like whatever it is, I want them to let you into my headspace a little more and let you into the world and the story of the song. So with this song, I really hope that the music video can do that and can kind of bring you back to that, like that innocent, youthful love, but also with like the heaviness of losing that, you know, because I think like losing that either whether a long-term love or your first love or whatever can be like a very hard thing, because you're experiencing all these things for the first time.
Now, as you're getting ready for like a debut album, you know, where would this like debut album take us? Because you're kind of dabbling your sounds, you're kind of dabbling your writing style as you're releasing new singles. So where is this debut album at?
That's a great question too. He's all the good questions today. You know, I think this first album for me really is an experiment of different sounds and genres as we're talking about it, because the truth is that every song is a little different. I think that what unites it is that it's storytelling based. It's all pretty percussive, and there are pop hooks throughout it. So it's like acoustic. For a lot of it, it's organic, but there are those pop hooks. There is that storytelling, and there is like a percussive fun element. That said, every song is a little different. So I would expect, you know, there's gonna be things that don't sound like either of those or any of the songs that are currently out that are on the record, you know. And I think that I wanted this record to be an experiment for me of like, you know, this is the first time that I ever was like officially in the recording studio for like actually finishing it, mixing it, mastering it, picking from songs that I had written to narrow it down for a record. So I learned a lot from this experience, and I think in the future, for like future EPs and future records, you can expect a little bit more cohesiveness, I would say, like in terms of sound. I think with songwriting, as long as there's like a cohesive sound, you can kind of make a lot of songs work for many different genres. Some lean more towards others, but you can definitely kind of unite them. I think that for future projects, I will go in more with a sonic idea of like, this is like whatever we do. I think it will always be a blend of genres, because I love people and artists that like really are a blend of genre. Right. They're kind of their own genre.
I feel like you grew up with so many different styles of music, so that kind of like influences what or how you write.
Yeah, no, you're right. I did. I grew up listening to like, you know, like when I was in second grade, I loved Shania Twain. Like I loved Madonna. I went to a bunch of pop punk shows like the All American Rejects, like we were saying beforehand. I love Taylor Swift. I listen to like my dad's disco tracks. Like it really is like a blend of genres. And I grew up in different parts of the country too until I hit like fourth grade, because my dad was a doctor in the Navy, so we would move around a lot. And so I think I kind of heard like the different sounds that were popular in each area too. And so I kind of just developed a love for a lot of different genres. And I admire artists where you're like, you can't pinpoint their genre, but they're just them. So I think it will always be my own thing. But I think what I'm going to try to do the next go around is probably to have an umbrella genre that then we can do whatever underneath it, as long as it's within like fits within that. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's like, hey, this is the genre it is, but we're going to be breaking a bunch of rules within that genre. This one though, I think it's whatever the hell genre it is. Like it's it's really a bit of everything. Like you're getting a little hint of like just the styles that I write. And I wrote a lot of this project on my own. Most of these songs were written entirely by me. And so I think before I was going to go in and like maybe make a project that was like, this has to be this genre and it's written with these people, and like I really wanted to get out who I was first, and like get these songs out that I had been writing by myself, that like I was like, these I won't feel good about moving forward with these new ideas until these are like at least out in the world, so that they can have a life and people can discover them, and you can get like an unfiltered view of who I am first, you know, and then like let's take it from there and build, and it might become something that's different than what it is currently, you know. But I think that this is like the start of the journey, and I think that elements will definitely remain, you know, about who I am as a person, and the topics that I write about, and the ways that I like the themes and the ways that I tell a story. But I do foresee the style of it adapting. And with this one, you're getting a lot of different things. And I think that expecting, like I said, the storytelling and more visuals that tie into the storytelling of who I am as a person and what I believe in. And also getting, it's a lot of letting go of what no longer serves you, which is sort of what Life in Review is about as a song, which I think the record is really about that, which is why that's the title track of the record. But the rest of it, it's about letting go of what doesn't serve you and then having to like acknowledge your self-worth to move forward from that place, and never settling for less than the love and respect that you deserve. So I think the record really is a journey from breakdown to breakthrough. The breakdown being that the beginning of the record is actually an ending, which is Life in Rearview. Right. That song really is like it's starting with an ending.
That's a great song to start the record.
Yeah, that's the first track. Yeah, nice. I always knew what the first track and the last track were. Okay. But the rest was like, okay, how do we get there? Because I know that what the beginning is of the story, and I know what the end is. But the in between really is having to not accept the love that you don't want as a way to actually get the love that you're looking for. Because I think if you have one foot in like a crappy relationship, you're not leaving space to find that right love for you that's like that does love you, that does respect you, so it is about like finding the self-worth and embracing vulnerability and depending upon your friends as a way to, I think, actually find the love that you're looking for. Like, it's not like you get out of a relationship and you're like, I just, I'm going with this person or whatever. It's about that internal work first before you move forward and before you find the love that you think you want. Right. It's like, I would say that it's not a traditional breakup record in the sense that like there is actually a lot of love on the record, even though it does begin with that ending, because the love is finding out how to love yourself and then finding out how to love somebody else after that.
How soon can we maybe expect this album? Is this like a 2019 project that fans can expect?
Sure, yeah. It's coming out May 17th.
Well, nice, already.
Yeah, it's happening. There's 12 tracks on it. I haven't told anybody this stuff yet. It's getting all the secrets. There's 12 songs on it. It comes out May 17th. Yeah. And then I've already actually started writing the follow-up project. Jeez. Yeah.
You need to tour this record first.
I know. I probably will. I'm looking to do like some summer tours. Or at least a lot of live shows promoting this record. And then I've already I was in the studio for one song. I don't know if it'll end up on the next project or if it'll just be like a follow-up single or whatever, but I've recorded one track and then I've like written two others that I'm pretty stoked on for like what I think could be the next one. Okay. But yeah, in the meantime, I will be promoting this one. I think you have to have like a vision of where you're going though, because especially
as an artist, like you're constantly creating, so I feel like you can't just like put it down for a second.
Well, by the time a record comes out, and I don't know if this is just with everyone or if it's with just me.
You've been working on it for a couple years.
Yeah, like it's like by the time a record I think comes out, especially the first record, it's like I've wrote a lot of these songs that are on this project like 3 years ago, and so for me, like emotionally, I've already written stuff for the next project. Like I'm committed to telling the story of this project first. So I've already been thinking about this next thing because it took me a bit to get this first one together. It's funny because I have a song called Nice Guy on this record that I put out already as a single, and I got a lot of messages from fans like, don't worry girl, like you're gonna find a nice guy. And I'm like, I already am in a relationship that I'm very happy in, but it's like, I wrote that song right, but because I had just put it out, people are like, don't worry, like you're great, you're gonna find somebody. I'm like, I did already, it's like, but you're having to put yourself back in the place that you were in because somebody else maybe is in that place currently, and then like I said, I've already kind of been like writing the next stuff, and whether that actually ends up being the next stuff or whether I keep writing, who knows, like we'll find out. But yeah, I think you do have to have some sort of a vision. I went to this Grammys event. And the producer Linda Perry was there she was nominated. She's the only woman that was nominated for Producer of the Year at the Grammys this year. And I think is the first woman to have been nominated in like the last 10 or 7 years, something crazy. And what she was saying, she was like the difference between like a dream and something actually coming into fruition is vision. Like she's like, I would much rather see somebody with a vision than with a dream, because it's very easy to have a dream, right? It's very easy to be like, I want to be, you know, a singer-songwriter. That's what we're talking about, I guess. But then there's something very different about actually going and executing it and in order to do that, to execute, I think you have to have a vision. Like if you're like, I'm making a record and it's going to have this feel and this is the theme of it and the photo shoot's going to look like this and the video has this feel, and that's all the stuff that you need in order to work backwards from there and be like, okay, if that's my vision, then how do I execute? How do I work backwards? And her point was like, if, you know, that's the difference. I think it's like, it's very easy to just say, I want to be a this. And then the difficulty is actually, you know, envisioning it and executing it. Yeah. Right. So
you have some, it seems like you have great people around you, like to kind of like inspire you and help you like make stuff happen.
Yeah, I do, you know, and I'm grateful that as I've been created this project and put it out, I feel like I've gotten more and more people that have been supportive and on board. And I think that's how it is for a lot of people. I think that you have to sometimes speaking of visions, I think you actually have to sometimes show people your vision in order for them to get it and come on board instead of just talking about it. Like, I felt like so many more people jumped on, like wanted to be on my team once I put out that Life in Review music video. It was so crazy. Like, it's just.
So I'm not crazy for thinking that.
No, well, it was like, that was my first song actually ever that I ever released. And that was the first video that I ever released. And I think that there were people that definitely who had heard my stuff before that when they saw that, like called me up and were like, I totally get what you're doing now. Wow. You know, and I was like, oh, like they're like, I always liked your stuff and like I always like liked your vibe and but like when I saw it, I was like, oh, I get what she's doing. And I was like, oh, so sometimes I think you do need to like take the reins and do it yourself, which is kind of like what we were talking about before this. But yeah, because the second that you actually do it and it comes into fruition, I think that you sort of separate yourself from a lot of the other people who've just said, oh, I'm going to do this, like we said, or like I was saying. But like the second that you actually see something in reality, you're like, oh, okay, this person's actually doing this. It's not just something that they're emailing about a few times, you know? Yeah, right. And so it was interesting. I really did most of this project by myself. And when I say by myself, I don't mean that I was like entirely alone. I had the support of my friends and my boyfriend and my family and my producer. And there were definitely, and people, you know, someone helped me with the mastering and the mixing. So there were definitely people involved, but I was definitely like overseeing the entire thing, like making every decision, making sure everything was actually how I wanted it. And same with the music video and the marketing and the, you know, the photos and like I had people helping, but I think I definitely had to like steamroll that or like had to have the idea first and like really execute it. Now I have more people after now I have more people that I'm really grateful to like have on my team who will help me come up with a concept of like even with this music video that's coming out, my team was like, why don't we do this to put it out? Like, this would be so cool. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even, like, I had an idea that they then expanded upon. That's great. So it's like, okay, well that's your idea, but like, let's make it even bigger. How about what if this happens then? And I'm like, oh, amazing. Yeah. That's great. So it's like, you know, I think it grows hopefully with you. And I hope that like, that I continue to have more support, like as I build and grow. You know, I'm still, I know, in like the building phase of it.